Good evening and welcome to the July 16th meeting of the Glenville Town Board. Please rise for the invocation and pledge of allegiance. Please join me in prayer. Dear Lord, we are meeting here today to conduct matters of business. Guide our hearts and our minds in the spirit of fairness, right thought, and speech. Impart your wisdom upon our activities so that our affairs may be reached in a successful conclusion. And thank you for being our source of guidance tonight. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please call the roll.
Councilman Martin?
Here.
Let the record show Councilman O'Donnell is absent. Councilman Ramichardi?
Here.
Councilwoman Wozzowski? Here. Supervisor Pettsley?
Here, we have a fairly busy agenda tonight. We do have the agendas up front, and everything is on that agenda except for we have three add-ons tonight, add-on 1, 2, and 3. They have to do with the extension of the Sunnyside Road, Arbor Lane, and Sunnyside Gardens Water District, all three of them, and essentially working to establish that district calling for the public hearing. So we will add those on after item 27 and before 28 of the agenda, those three add-ons. So with that, we'll start with town council reports, and I'll start on my left with Councilman Ramichardi.
No reports.
Councilwoman Wozzowski.
Yes, I just have one item, Mr. Supervisor. New York State Department of Transportation is going to be holding an informational meeting with connection with the Alphaus Avenue Bridge Rehabilitation Program. The meeting will be held Wednesday, July 30th at 7 p.m. at the Schenectady County Glenville Home in the community room at 59 Mitchelltown Road. Everyone who is interested in the project is invited.
Is that the Richard Church?
That's the bridge that goes, the main bridge that goes through Alphaus. That's Alphaus Avenue.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay, I was thinking on me.
Yeah. So, we'll have an informational meeting then.
What's that date again, June?
July 30th at 7 p.m. at the Glenville Home in the community room.
Thank you.
But I'm sure that Jamie here will make sure we get that up on our website so everyone wants to know.
It is.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you.
Councilman Martin.
Yes, went to the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting the other night. The couple things to report on. The featured project, Applebee's Restaurant, was approved. Got final approval. They overcame the small issue relating to the driveway access. So I anticipate we should see groundbreaking there in the fall or by the fall. And then also they discussed the proposed change to the zoning to allow electric fences, and they have a recommendation that be subject to site plan review. So I think that'll probably make it into the final resolution forthcoming, I think, next month. That's it.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll move on now. We have a series of public hearings tonight. I noticed that some people have signed up for privilege of the floor regarding some of the items that are public hearing. You're free to speak at both. If you'd like to speak at the public hearing, then you don't have to speak at privilege of the floor, or vice versa, so whatever you like. So, for example, the zoning map amendment, we're going to take up open the public hearing shortly. Whoever signed up for that can speak there as opposed to the privilege of the floor. So with that, we'll open the public hearing. The first public hearing, item number 5 on the agenda, to consider a zoning map amendment application by Capital Land to change the zoning of 41, 43, and 47 Saratoga Road from professional residential to general business, and also to allow for the expansion of the Capital Land GMC Subaru dealership at 37 Saratoga Road. It might be helpful, if the engineer is already there, to start with a brief presentation.
Certainly. Tommy Andres with APD Engineers and Surveyors representing Capital Land. The proposal we have before you tonight is to change 3 lots that are under Capital Land. It's an ownership. They're approximately 3.3 acres total. Each of them has a small residential house on them. They're on sort of an angle to Route 50. They are in the PR zone, professional residential zone. The Capital Land Motors is immediately adjacent to them to the south. Their existing Subaru and GM dealership, which is in a general business zone. The desire for Capital Land is to take the Subaru portion of the GM Subaru and put that into a separate building. It's something that unfortunately a lot of the dealerships are being asked to by the automobile manufacturers to have a standalone building for each different product. They purchased these a number of years ago, and we're looking at this board considering changing those 3 lots, which would be adjacent to the existing building in the general business zone to general business. The professional residential does allow some intensive uses, just so that the board is aware. It does allow medical, it does allow dental, it does allow professional office, and it goes through and defines professional office, anything from insurance to engineering, real estate office, things like that. One of the other uses that is allowed in that zone is daycare. The general business has those uses, but it also allows a retail use. But more importantly, there's a very specific use under a special use permit. So there is a whole another level of review that goes forward for an automobile dealership. So this would allow the property that they own to be combined. They would take that, they wouldn't keep that separate. Those 3 lots would be combined with their existing property, one single property, and they would build the new standalone building for Subaru. Just reviewing some of, and I know one of the concerns always is traffic. Unfortunately, I go every day to physical therapy across the street and I'm in a car accident. And I know it is difficult at times to get in and out of Route 50. Comparing some of the uses that would be allowed in the residential professional, again, medical, dental, you could put approximately 30,000 square feet of building on there without any issue. You could probably put more than that. That would generate about 75 cars in the AM and 112 in the PM. So it generates a fairly good amount. Regular office would be approximately 50 cars in the PM. The new car sales, actually with the 12,500 square foot office or building that we're showing, generates 25 in the AM and approximately 33 in the PM. These are all based upon ITE, Institute of Traffic Engineering standards, so they would vary depending upon each dealership and the actual use, but they're used in comparison. And I think one of the important points we just wanted to let this board know is that from a traffic generation standpoint, this generation for this specific use, it will probably be, it's anywhere from a quarter to a third to a half of what you could actually have for generation for a use that would be allowed in that zone. Now, specific to Capital Land, which is the reason why we're asking for this zoning, their morning hours are pretty much nil. Their AM for the AM peak of the adjoining or the adjacent road, 50, is almost nothing. They do, of course, have a PM. Some of that is drive-by people turning in. Some of it obviously is new traffic. Their biggest generator of traffic is actually on Saturday. That's logically be assumed. One of the, even though it's not directly related to the change of zone, but Capital Land is looking to put on approximately 30 new employees for this facility, and I believe the average salary is almost $50,000. So it's a significant amount of money that's going to be invested in this overall project. But right now, of course, here we're just for the beginning, hopefully to have the zone changed. I do have a map, which of course is probably difficult for you to see. Behind me, that shows the approximate location of of where we're putting the building and the distance to the residential houses. This, obviously, this is the existing facility. This brown building would be the proposed facility. The area that we're asking to be rezoned would be this area here, which corresponds to the same pink area outlined there. From the property corner here, the closest house, which has that pool there, is 300 feet away. We bring this aerial up just so that the board can appreciate the amount of trees that are between the property. We certainly are adjacent to another residential house that is very similar to the houses that are on the 3 lots that would be removed. We're very cognizant of that fact, and in fact, there is a requirement in the zoning to have a 40 or 60-foot strip setback from that property line for that use. So you do notice we do have that, and then we're also showing some significant berming in the area where the existing house is that would be taking out past the back of the existing house. It's wooded, and we would attempt to leave, of course, as many of those trees as possible. So it sort of gives you a good idea. It also gives you an idea of obviously the greenhouse setup, physical therapy, of course, going over to the airport, the school, sort of shows where the general business is in that area.
Thank you.
Right.
I would ask you to just, we'll be taking up the resolution later in the evening, so we might have questions at that time.
We'll certainly be here.
Anyone else wish to be heard on this matter? Anything, sir?
Yes.
Yes, please. And then just for the record, state the name and address.
My name is Tom Sykowski, and I own that adjacent lot, 49 Saratoga Road. It was my father's land, and I inherited it. My father passed away. My stepmother has life estate in that property, and they went through and surveyed it. It wasn't 3 days after my father passed away, and they're proposing to do all this, and I'm all for progress, but my main concern is that my father is on an artesian well. He is not tapped into the city water, he's not tapped into the city sewage system, and I'm concerned that with them doing all the building, they're going to disrupt his water supply. There's a creek that runs through all there that's an actual flow that Burmaster and Horsemen use to water their orchards and stuff like that. And it is the bumper property between that and Return. Capital Land did approach us about purchasing the land. We were kind of like, shun away a little bit, and they never really came back with a legitimate offer. But as for the traffic, I do agree with him, because there's no business in the dealership, during the morning, but, evenings and stuff like that. But according to what the property line is, it's literally 10 feet from my father's garage. And it's literally, it's right there, and there is a section of woods from there. By according to what they proposed, that section of woods is going to be coming down. We're going to be keeping the back section. My main concern is if they're in there doing work on cars. My stepmother is almost 80 years old, and she's going to be listening to all this. And my major concern is the property value is going to drop significantly with them putting in this dealership. And it's that's my main concern about the whole thing, is the property value and the disruption of the natural aquifer that's through there, because people don't realize that there is an aquifer there, and my father was told some 30 years ago that he could supply half of Glenville with the water that he's got. It's an artesian well. And if they disrupt that, my father then will be forced to tie into the city water if they pollute that. So that's my major concern.
Sir, do you own all those trees between the Return and?
Yeah.
That's all your?
Yeah, it's like 4.8 acres. My stepbrother owns a house in Return, and he bought an acre off my father like 10 years ago, and there was 6 acres back there. Now I think it's either 3.8 or 4.8 acres that are left back there, and which is all part of the woods and the creek, because the properties are screwed up. They go at an they're not like a straight back run. They cut to an angle. And it's, we own all that, and it's, I'm concerned that the property is going to, depreciate significantly. You know, I know what it's worth now, and proceeding in the future, what it's gonna go down to. You know, I'll be left with this residential house next to a dealership that I won't be able to do anything with, because no one's gonna wanna buy it, because who's gonna wanna live next to a dealership? So, that's what I stand on the subject.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Anyone else wish to be heard on this matter?
My name is Lisa Rillier.
My name's Craig Rudden. We live at 2 Miracle Lane, which is the house adjacent to the top.
Yeah, we're right on the corner. We have a lot of the same concerns. Obviously, the traffic being one of them. We look out our window and see accidents constantly, so any increase in traffic is going to be a huge problem, especially at peak times. We'll sit for up to 15 minutes waiting to get out. We're very much concerned about the noise and the lights. It looks like there's a lot of trees, but when the leaves come off, you can see straight through and all the way back. And it's not that far away, so we have some serious concerns about that. We're also obviously very concerned about property value. We're very close, so being one house away, again, we didn't really buy it thinking we'd be almost immediately next to a car dealership, and we have to imagine other people wouldn't want to live almost immediately next to a car dealership either, so.
And our other concern as well is the buffer to be put into place. Obviously, like Lisa said, with the trees in the wintertime, you can see through. Something that's an evergreen would certainly be preferable. Just enough to block the view and the lights as well.
It's aesthetically pleasing if it's going to be there.
So that's our main concern. Again, just to reiterate the property value, as to make Tom's concern, we are right in line with him on that. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to be heard on this matter? Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Nick Picarillo. I live on 8 Miracle Lane, which is this property right here. And looking at the initial proposal, I think my property borders the northern point of the proposed property, right about here, right at the creek. I'm all for economic development. I think I have 3 concerns. I think they're modest and can be addressed. And if I were making this proposal, I think I would want to address them. Number 1, noise. I think we hear alarms going off. We can hear them from my residents. All my neighbors can hear them too. And it happens frequently. I would say 2, 3 times a month. Sometimes alarms go off. I'm not saying it should be down to 0. But their noise is a factor. So if I can hear them from my property, inside my property with all the windows closed, all the doors closed, I attempt to minimize that would be helpful, particularly now.
Is that divine intervention here?
Right there. So noise, as you knock down more trees now, I can see the GMC dealership in the wintertime, not in the summertime, because I do have a buffer zone from where my house is, my backyard, over to the creek that borders the property. I can see it in the wintertime. I see the lights, because the lights point in this direction. So as if when you're building a new property, simply by pointing lights downward, using a modern lighting system on the new property and upgrading on the old property, because trees are not coming down. Those are just modest changes that can be made to reduce the lighting, because we can see it. And I know some of the other neighbors have complained that they can read a newspaper in their backyard. The lighting is so strong. I haven't tried it, so I can't speak for myself, but I know other neighbors have tried it and confirmed that. And I think the third thing is a buffer zone, an adequate buffer zone. I think in the proposal, the only buffer is between between the proposed property and this gentleman who spoke earlier. I would ask that that buffer zone be extended along the entire northern portion of that property that will bore right up against the creek. So in my case, I'm going to maintain my own buffer, so I'm not asking for anything that I'm not currently doing on my own property. And I would say, you know, depending on how the layout looks, 50 to 100 feet is not undoable. So those three things, something to address the noise currently, modernizing the light, and maintaining an adequate buffer of 50 to 100 feet, I think, then I think my concerns would be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to be heard on this matter? Yes, sir.
My name is Tom Culver. My wife and I own 36 and 38 Saratoga Road, which is directly across the street. And we've been there for approximately 20 years. We've had a history of dealing with the owner. He has not been a model neighbor, I guess you could call it. We had problems with lighting. We came walking one evening in the winter from the rear to the front of our house, and it was blinding. I mean, you couldn't even see without putting your hand up over your eyes. We drove across the street. The general manager says, yeah, it is kind of obnoxious. We want to be good neighbors. We will work on it. Nothing was done. I don't have the dates right in front of me. After a period of time, my wife went over, talked to the owner. I'm working on it. Nothing was done. Another period of time, I'm guessing maybe a month and a half, I walked over. A salesman met me in the room and he said, can I help you? I told him who I was and who I was here to see. He walked into a room, he said, he's not here. I said, well, I can see him. Anyway, I said, I'll wait. And he said, you know, I gotta sell cars, I'm working on it. And nothing was done. We finally had to get the town involved because I'm the one, you could read a newspaper 400 feet deep in my backyard at 10 o'clock at night with no lights. And they are better, they are not. I mean, they're still shining brighten up the front of both of our houses. And like I said, the last two meetings, there's been no representation from Capital Land Motors, which it just, you know, we're all for economic development, but somebody's got to babysit them and watch and make sure that it's done so you don't burn the neighbors out of there. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to be heard on this matter? Anyone else? Going once? Going twice? Oh.
Would you like a response to any of these items? Would it be helpful or not?
Well, if you want to speak during the public hearing, you're free to.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
If you want to speak during the public hearing, you're free to speak during the public hearing.
Is that okay?
You raised your hand before the gavel went down, so I have to allow that.
Sorry, my name is Jim Town, and I'm the attorney for Mr. Rulo. A couple of historical things. First of all, with respect to the aquifer, 23 years ago, when we first came to the town for this proposal, Glenville Environmental Conservation asked us not to put in a body shop because they were concerned about the aquifer. We did. With respect to the lighting, I'm extremely concerned that we'll look into your contentions. I will tell you that when we did this 23 years ago, we were required by the town planning board to put in lighting that would not have any ambient lighting leaving the property because of Pedrick's next door. We hired an engineer with the approval of the planning board from RPI, somebody who's an expert in lighting. I didn't know there was such a person, but there was. And he tested it. I will tell you that the only problem that we had in the test site was coming from the jewelry store. Is that your building? Across the street? Whatever it was, the night we did the testing, that somebody pointed the lights on the property so the test would fail. When those were turned off, we were about 30% of what the required maximum was. I don't know what has changed in the interim. It should have changed, and I'll get you an answer.
I'm sorry, we just asked you to address the board.
Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize. So with respect to the water issue, the berming, there was a question about 10 feet off of a garage. It's actually now a 50-foot buffer. Mr. Rulo has really bent over backwards to try and keep noise down. There are no exterior speakers. I'll look into the issue of and get back to you if you'd like, with respect to the alarms. They may be because they deliver parts at 2 o'clock in the morning and the person who delivers the parts punches the code. I could understand that. But other than that, I think it's a good development, and especially in light of the fact that they could put up a 30+ thousand square foot office building, which would vastly negatively impact upon traffic. We've got to do something with these lots. Believe me, having to spend all this money because some manufacturer in Japan or in Detroit wants us to split the dealership is not anybody's idea of how to spend money or capital, but that's what they require, and that's what we have to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Anyone else wish to be heard on this matter? Going once, going twice. Not closed. Okay, so we'll move on to public hearing number 2. Which is item number 6, we're going to open a public hearing to hear all those regarding the proposed local law that would amend Chapter 270 of the Town Code that would eliminate multifamily dwellings as one of the use allowed by the site plan review within the general business zoning district. Anyone wish to be heard on this matter? Yes, sir.
Was it me?
I'm Tony DeRazio, and this is my sister Sandy Lannon. Our family has been, for the last 68 years, serving the Glenville community as operators of Wayside Hardware, our retail business. My sister and I have both retired and have put up our property for sale. We have a parcel of property adjacent to the high school, which is about 6.7 acres. We currently have interest from a developer and his bank, and they both deem that this property is best used for multiple family dwellings. In addition to that, we owned a portion, 1.4 acres, on the other side of Birch Parkway, which we sold and was developed by Bob Bosey between 2007 and 2009. It now houses 16 very successful middle to upper level apartments, all of them rented with a substantial waiting list. So it's well proved that this type of development works and is successful in that particular area. We are obviously concerned with property value and our ability to market it in the event amendment changes come into effect, but we're also very concerned about what's best for the town of Glenville. We know that multiple family units bring people into the town, bring in a considerable amount of tax revenue, and truly don't require much in terms of service from the town. There's no street plowing or anything, and they're typically privately owned businesses, so they don't require any kind of tax benefits or adjustments to taxes, so to speak, like we sometimes hear of larger corporations moving in and getting tax relief. This doesn't typically occur with these multiple unit dwellings. Additionally, our piece of property is located on the opposite side of the majority of the town of Glenville, obviously near the high school. So, you know, if we were to develop this with multiple units, apartments, so to speak, there's no, I was looking back at the master plan, there's no interference with potential retail because it's not an area that's retail. It's a small peninsula of property that is bordered by Village of Scotia property, but it is the town of Glenville. So it's not obviously going to pose a problem on that end of Glenville, and it would really be more attractive to people in the Village of Scotia as opposed to people in the corridor of Freeman's Bridge Road or Route 50 or anything like that, because you know, we have new business going into Corporation Park, 300+ employee operation that's being built there now. Many of the school employees have the possibility of rental there, and obviously the track record that the apartments show right now proves that this is a usable thing. There's a need for this, and our concerns are that if this amendment goes into effect, it will be more difficult for marketing, of course, and I don't think that it's truly doing justice to the town of Glenville. And I do feel that middle to upper scale apartments, like these apartments that Bob has constructed, attract a high caliber of person. They don't attract a low-income type family. They bring a different type of person into the community, and it's the kind of person that Glenville needs. We have an upscale community. We have a wonderful community, and I feel that, multiple unit dwellings done the right way are an enhancement. Would you like to add anything to that?
No, I think you covered it all.
Okay. I referred to the old master plan. I guess there's possibilities of a new master plan being put in. And, I guess one of my concerns would be maybe it might be a little bit more prudent to establish the new master plan and see which direction you would all like the town to go, and then make a final decision as to how the zoning amendments should be handled, and with concern for that.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions for me? Thank you. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to be heard on that matter? Going once, going twice. Public hearing is now closed. Move on to the next public hearing, number 7, which is a public hearing to consider proposed local law that would amend Chapter 270 of the Code of the Town of Glenville, establishing a one-step instead of a two-step site plan process in certain instances for the select group of land uses. Just so we're all on the same page for that one. It would amend combining preliminary and final site plan review in certain instances that includes changing in tendencies where there is an intensification of use as defined by another section of law, and then where there's an addition to existing buildings without, that will not exceed 25% of the original building footprint, expansion of existing uses in which there are no building additions, but rather an expansion or modification of parking, driveway, landscaping, stormwater management, any bed and breakfast establishment, any accessory apartments, any churches, synagogues, or other religious use or institutions, except within the suburban residential district where a two-step plan process is still required. So it's those 7 items that would be amended from a two-step to a one-step process. Anyone wish to be heard on that matter? Anyone at all? Going once, going twice. That public hearing is now closed. We now move to item number 8, which is privilege of the floor. We have a few already spoke. I would assume Tom and Tony and Sandra, you don't want to speak again?
No.
Okay.
No, thank you.
Okay. And that leaves one more person that's signed up, is Peter Looker.
I'm Peter Looker. I live on 1965 Amsterdam Road. I'd like to pose during my privilege, I'd like to pose a question. Let's say that the zoning law says that I can bring the light into this room to see where my feet are going. I have to do so in a manner, according to law, to not reflect upon adjoining people's space, and shall be shielded and projected downward. Now I show the police officer on the way in my light in my hand, aiming down, and give him the details as to the type of light, how many lumens it projects onto the floor, as well as the size of my arm and the height of my arm, and hundreds of other documents related to my visit here. He says, okay, go in. Now, I aim my light into people's eyes, and constantly, all night long, every night, even though the law states that that glare shall be confined to my footprint, so that nearby people aren't significantly impacted. Should I be able to appeal this? Should anybody in this room be able to appeal this even though the police officer said I could bring my lighting here holding it in my hand? And two, should we change the law next month so that I, who can't even aim a light according to the law, can now carry an electric fence, no, I'm sorry, a taser into the room for my safety, even though the law presently prohibits my having an electric a taser in this room? And three, if I'm a big corporation, big corporate citizen according to the Supreme Court, should I be exempt from the laws and common courtesy that normal living citizens and local small companies have to abide by? That was for Old Dominion.
Thank you. No one else has signed up. Is anyone interested in speaking on privilege of the floor? Anyone at all? Going once, going twice. The privilege of the floor is closed. Move on to item number 8, which is the supervisor's comments to the board. I just have a brief list here tonight. We have enough business to do that. I think most of the items are on the agenda. Just quickly, I know that Councilwoman Rosbowski and I attended the Pashley Dare graduation last month now, towards the end of the month, and it was a very nice event, and it was really, unfortunately, the only one that we were able to do in the town this year was at Pashley. And just seeing the kids and hearing the teachers and the educators and the principal, the superintendent was there as well. It's just a great program. It's a good program for us to support, and I wanted to express my appreciation to the board and the police department and Officer Dunbar for all the work they've done this year on that. And as we go into budget time, one of the points that I made at the DARE graduation was that, you know, there are times for budget cuts and things are tough and difficult, but we still have to continue to deliver the services that are important to the residents in the best way that we can. And so hopefully going into 2015, that's a program that we continue to fund. I just think it was a positive day and it had a positive impact on those kids. We had, as we'll talk more about tonight, so I won't spend too much time on it, a lot of meetings with the DEC regarding water on Sunnyside. We had a positive outcome on that, as you all know, obviously. There's more news coming on the potential cleanup of the source site. We're working on some solutions there as well, which I know Councilman Martin has been involved in, the LDC has been involved in, and we're hoping. To me, this is critical. From the very beginning, until you clean up the source site, you're not going to take care of anything downstream. And so this is critical to the town of Glenville, critical to development, public safety, public health, and Freeman's Bridge Road. So we're working on it, and I think you're going to see some news coming out on that sometime shortly. As you also know, I've spent some time regarding one of the many retirements we have this year. We have both our custodians retiring. One's already retired, one's retiring, and the board is obviously looking at ways to save money. And so we've reached out to the Burn Hills Boston Lake School District to talk about potentially shared services with the custodial staff. And we've also talked to some private firms about possibly coming in and doing contract work for maintenance, cleaning, custodial stuff. We're getting quotes now, so the town board, we talked about the work session, we'll be probably looking at a cost benefit analysis for August in the work session, and then maybe taking up the resolution in August. We obviously know that as we change our model a little bit and change how we do business, it's not just about saving costs, it's about continuing to deliver the services we need to deliver. And so in the facilities that we had other things being done by those custodians, we're finding ways of getting those taken care of as well. You know, Councilman Ramatar is involved in the senior center, potentially changing some of the staffing there and how we deliver services so that we continue to deliver everything that's always been delivered, but at a significant cost savings. So I anticipate a lot of that will be brought up in the August meetings. I've also met with our lighting folks again. I can believe that there are experts in lighting because I've met with half of them regarding our town center lighting plan. We are looking at solar lighting, as we talked about. Right now what we're struggling with is can we have assurances that solar streetlights on a DOT road, meeting DOT standards, will continue to work in December and January and February as they will in July and August? And we're being assured that they will. I just think that we've got to make sure we do our homework on that one. And so with the fact that the sidewalk project in town center will be done in the fall, DOT would like us to do the lighting before that, obviously. So we're really looking at a crunch of the fall, trying to get the lighting done. So I'm asking for commitments from the lighting manufacturers that solar works in an upstate city. Apparently they're in Rochester, they're in Ithaca, and another small village around here. Technology is changing quickly, and I'm told that it's changed to the point where these batteries last for 6 days without sun. The problem is that you can go more than 6 days in December without sun in upstate New York. So it's something that we're looking at. If we can install solar, we save about $500,000 though. And we reduce our carbon footprint, and we are leaders in going green. So it's something we have to seriously look at. This is our opportunity to do it for the town center. The other day, Congressman Taco's office in the town of Glenville hosted what we call a sewer summit. It was well attended. We had about 23 people here in the room from the town of Alston, the town of Glenville, the Congressman's office, EFC, USDA, HCR, a lot of acronyms there, all federally, all government agencies. But we took about an hour and a half and talked about the possibility and funding source for bringing sewers up Route 50 from Price Chopper all the way up into Boston over the county line and into that town. And we had the GKBA was here, the Burn Hills Business Association was here, the 2 chamber presidents, Senate representatives from both Schenectady and Southern Saratoga. And we really impressed upon the Congressman's office and the government agencies how critically important sewers are to economic development north going up Route 50. There are properties up there that are vacant and abandoned and not being utilized because there are no sewers. We also brought the school district in on it, which, by the way, their high school and their middle school are both on sewers. Their middle school's in the town of Glenville, their high school's in the town of Alston. I'm sorry, both on septic. And they're very old systems, and they're obviously being used a lot. And they're very concerned about the cost of the taxpayers if they had to change out into a new septic. And so the sewer is becoming a critical piece to opening up that commercial corridor. It was a good meeting, it was a good start. I think we have got a lot of work ahead of us. We're looking at a significant project if we go forward. But it's a multi-jurisdictional project, and it's something that everyone, I think, is committed to and really wants to see happen. So there'll be more on that in weeks to come and months. I've attended, I know Councilman Rosbowski was at a couple of them too, a variety of ribbon cuttings and groundbreakings, and there's more to come. There's actually 6 within 1 week in the town of Glenville. It's almost one event a day with what's going on this week and next week. But I attended last week the subway, moving over to the old Pizza Hut ribbon cutting, and then we attended the Glenwick groundbreaking on Dutch Meadow, which is going to bring more multifamily into the town. I attended today the Mohawk Honda ribbon cutting on their new facility, a $1 million investment, 20 new jobs, and new detail bay that they're bringing in. And tomorrow is the Mohawk Tap Room down on Mohawk Ave, ribbon cutting. On the 24th is Ellis Medicine. Will be doing their ribbon cutting at the Social Plaza. And then Richmore is doing a groundbreaking on their new hangar at the county airport. So there's a lot of activity going on. So if we can make any of those, they're all at 11 o'clock, oddly, that would be great. At the end of the month, on the 31st, I secured a meeting with County Waste to discuss the bulk pickup program. If you guys have anything, if anyone wants to attend, or if you have anything you want brought up on it, I'm really going to kind of communicate the disappointing way it was implemented this year and maybe have some ideas about how to address 2015. I want to address this now. I don't want to address this in April of 2015 when we go back out and do it again. It's got to be done faster. It's got to be done quicker. I've been told by County Waste that we had significantly more volume this year. I don't know. I didn't notice that anecdotally just driving around. So, that's the 31st. If you have any comments you want me to pass along, if you want to attend, just let me know. Last two quick items, financials. I always like to give the financials where we are, seeing that we're kind of through the 2 quarters now. You got a memo from Jason on this, but it bears kind of just going over. Revenues, revenue overviews are not included, as most major non-property tax revenues have not been addressed yet. So when you're looking at these numbers, know that we do not have our sewer fees yet or water fees, because the bills just went out and they're just coming back actually. Franchise fee hasn't been paid, Metroplex sales tax second quarter's not in. So those revenues aren't in these numbers yet. But a few key expenses that we should note overall for the first 2 quarters of 2014 is that our expenses are up only 0.4%, or $26,000 over the same period of 2013. However, in 2013, we paid for a police car and a front-end loader in the first 2 quarters. So if we deduct those expenses out, that would result in an overall expense rise increase of 2.4% over the period last year. That 2.4% increase, interestingly, is made up of 2 components. One is total wage payments, which include salary, overtime, longevity, and all pay lines. We're up 2.4%, or $62,000. This increase is wholly attributed to the payouts of retired employees. If we didn't have that, we'd have essentially flat as far as total wages. The second component is the employee benefits expense, increased 3.3% over last year, this time for $54,000. Most of that was due to the 12% increase in the New York State Retirement Fund to us. So it goes back to that tax cap, and we'll close with the tax cap discussion in just a moment. Our tax cap is being eaten up almost entirely by benefit and pay. Retirement and health insurance, essentially. Really. And that's a strong problem for us going forward. I'll give you some numbers on that. Other items to consider: with 9 months of the mortgage tax year finished, our overall mortgage tax revenues are tracking well below last year. Signs that the housing market have not increased, multifamily or single family. We expect to end this year with about $500,000, which is down from $803,000. So we're about $300,000 down right now over last year. The 2015 tax cap base is projected to be 1.5%, which equates to $140,000 of new spending next year. The problem with that is we're already being told by our health insurance carriers that we're going to have about $120,000 in new health insurance increases. So essentially, the entire cap is eaten up in health insurance increases, which we can't control because we don't have the tools from the state to allow us to try to mitigate against health insurance increases. I'm not going to go into all these numbers, the expense overviews. These are all in your mailbox or been delivered electronically to you. But essentially, we're tracking, the messages are tracking very well with spending where we can control spending. But it's been the story, we're having problems where it's health insurance, retirement, and payouts to retired personnel. We'll have some numbers shortly on how we're going in 2015, because budget time is going to start shortly in August. Jason and I have already started talking about some of that, so we'll have some overviews for you. The last piece of business I just wanted to bring up was I touched on the sidewalk and lighting beautification effort in town center. We are out of compliance with ADA on our sidewalks. The state DOT has come in and said we're so significantly out of compliance, they're going to help us get into compliance, and they're going to pay for much of the project. As you know, we committed $133,000, which is the local cost of this project. I've been working with the county. I've placed the letters to the county legislators on this matter. We're asking the county to step up and be a partner with DOT, to be a partner with the town of Glenville, because it is our contention that the biggest beneficiary of improving our commercial corridor is the county, because the county is the one that's going to get the sales tax increase when people come into this town center and start purchasing the goods here, particularly because we are a commercial corridor right on the border of Saratoga County. where we can start pulling residents from Saratoga County into Schenectady County, the county is going to benefit in that sales tax increase. So it is our contention that they should share that $133,000 cost that we had to pay to make these sidewalks possible in our town center. Now, Metroplex has committed $90,000 towards our lighting project, not the sidewalk project. So we're asking the legislature to do that. You have the letters. I've gotten a letter back from Chairman Jasinski. It wasn't an affirmation. It was basically asking a lot more questions. I've had conversations with him. I think answered a lot of those questions, but we still have not heard from the legislature. So then I did send a letter, as you'll see, to all of our District 3 representatives who represent the businesses and people of this town who ought to be. I'm asking them to call on the chairman with their support of this project and to introduce a resolution that would bring the county into partnership with the state and the town. Not heard back from any of them. I had one conversation with legislator Burmaster, who promised, and legislator Sosha, who both promised to talk to the other District 3 legislators and try to get a resolution to this. This has been going on a long time. We've been asking this question a long time. And it's time now that the county step up and be a partner in investing in one of the most significant commercial corridors and a growing commercial corridor in the town of Glenville. I will point out that they're doing it on Hamburg Street. I read an article, they're doing it on Upper Union Street. They're doing it in front of the library in the city. So now we have Rotterdam, Niskayuna, and the city are all getting that kind of help. It's time the town of Glenville got the same attention that the other municipalities in this county have. We are the largest town. We're a town that they just simply cannot ignore, and it's time that they step up and invest in the town of Glenville again. So I ask for your help on this. Talk to our legislators, call Chairman Jasinski, call the county manager, call the county attorney, if that's what it takes. We got to get this thing going, and it's time that they join us in that. So I just wanted to press upon you that issue, and any questions or comments from me. Thank you. Okay, so back to the agenda, we have Resolution 10, accepting original water warrants. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion?
Mr. Supervisor, this resolution is to accept the warrant for water district number 11 in the total of $1,674,084.24, which includes water, wet, grants, receivables, special contracts, and sewer.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, please record the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Ramichardt?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzachowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. Next resolution, Resolution 11, appointing gentleman to the Schenectady County Environmental Advisory Council. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor, this is a resolution that will be appointing Dan Hill to represent the Glenville's Environmental Conservation Commission on the Schenectady County Environmental Advisory Council. He comes highly recommended from Jamie, and I would recommend that we do so.
Any questions or comments? As you know, Dan Hill serves on our GECC. I've known Dan for quite some time. He's a quality guy, and he'll do, I think, a great job representing the environmental concerns nicely. No other comments or questions? Please report the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Ramichardt?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzachowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. Next, Resolution 12, accepting the 2013 audited financial statements. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved in second, and point of discussion, as you know, every year the town retains an independent auditor to audit the town's financial statements. This resolution is dealing with the December 31st, 2013 year end. I think you all got copies in the mailbox of the results. I think it came out nicely. No major findings, Mr. Comptroller, so that. I want to make sure everyone knows that. And so this is just accepting that audit. Do I have a motion? Or we have a motion. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, please report the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Ramichardt?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzachowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Ketzler?
Yes, resolution passes. Next resolution 13, accepting the 2013 court audit. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved in second. This is the same really issue, same auditors. Every year through the Uniform Justice Act, we have to examine the books of the court. We did that, and that, again, had no major findings, and I think all the board members received copies of that as well. Yes. So, with that, any questions or comments? Seeing none, please report the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Ramichardt?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzachowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Ketzler?
Yes, resolution passes. Next resolution, 14, authorizing the supervisor to hire a part-time real property appraisal tech. Do I have a motion?
So
Do
moved.
I have a second?
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor. Carol Corwood, after 29 years, has retired, and based on the turnover, we do have a new assessor and real property technician. However, I feel it's really needed based on specialized requirements of that job for Carol to help with the transition, and she is offered to work on a limited part-time basis from June to December 31st, 2014 at a part-time basis for $20 an hour with no benefits.
Excellent. Any questions or comments?
Total compensation not to exceed $3,000.
Correct. Obviously, we all know Carol. She did a wonderful job for us when she was down to one person after the assessor left, and she's helped train the new assessor or helped with his training and the new real property tech. But it's a new group there. Both those gentlemen are very capable, but they're very, very new, and so I think the board believes that having an experienced assessor in there for a little bit will be helpful. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, please record the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Ramichardt?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzachowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Ketzler?
Yes, resolution passes. Next resolution 15, approving the 2014 budget amendments. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved and second, and these are the quarterly amendments that we used to take up annually, and I thank Jason for moving it to quarterly. It's easier to take in smaller chunks. Anyone have any questions, or Jason, do you have anything that you want to point out? I mean, I look at decrease in appropriation codes at 39,177. I just wonder what that is.
Sure. Pretty much what we're doing with this is, when we budgeted for the retirement payouts at the end of the year or start of this year, we put all the money into contingency codes just to make sure that when people left, the money was there. So now that the retirements are taking place, that's where you'll see the money moving. In the adult activities, the sick vacation time cash out, the straight time overtime, that was for the maintenance helper at the senior center who recently retired. You'll see in the highway department, there will be some monies moving around, and that's for recent retirement. In the water department, the 44,000. That's for retirements that will occur on Monday, the 21st of July. So that's the lion's share of these items. There's some little ticky-tack housekeeping things as well. One item that's a little unusual, not done in the past, is the town justice contractual court security. Our police officers work in court security. Our court security is always, basically the police department is just beating that as part of the town outside village fund, even though the court is the town general fund. So we're just allocating the expense properly. It's the police department basically charging the court for that service. None of these amendments require any new monies. This is all just moving existing monies around, no fund balance appropriations.
The only thing I want to point out on the back page, capital projects, I just talked about it. We allocated $133,000 town center improvement sidewalks out of the townwide, and that's going to come back in a variety of ways.
Yes.
I believe.
Yeah.
We do have the increased revenue. We have $43,000 gift and donation. We have a $90,000 increase in revenue. That's the money from Metroplex that we're hoping to receive. So there is some offsets, or there are offsets to the 133.
That's correct.
As long as the commitments come through. I mean, we had to do it. DOT needed us to move forward on this, or else the project wouldn't have gotten done. So.
And I think it's worthwhile noting that we're doing this under, in association with DOT, that leads to a significant cost savings if we were to venture out on this on our own.
Absolutely. All right, any other questions or comments? Thank you, Jason. Seeing none, please record the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Ramichardt?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzachowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Capson?
Yes, resolution passes. Next resolution, resolution 16, approving a payment for proportional tax debt. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor, this resolution is to, back in July 16, 2013, we accepted a parcel of land given to us by Larry Lewis, and we agreed to pay the taxes on that land, which was, we authorized $500. However, the proportional tax is actually $950. This resolution is to pay the $950 that is due on the property that was given to us.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, please record the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Ramichardt?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzachowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Capson?
Yes, resolution passes. Next resolution, resolution 17, issuing a negative declaration to a seeker. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved and second. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor, this will start us on the path of the consideration of the rezoning that was the, or a zoning amendment that was the subject of a public hearing earlier this evening. This is the seeker portion or the environmental assessment of that zoning change. It is not, I should point out, it's not of the action itself, but more the action of the change in the law. And so we're coming to a negative declaration, which essentially means that we're finding no environmental impact, adverse environmental impact associated with that change in the law.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? I think just to read the comments of the planner in the seeker, and he wrote that the certain reasons for supporting this determination is this project. Again, this is what the planner wrote, an economic development officer of the town. This project is consistent with existing development in the area, which includes primarily commercial development along Route 50 and residential development in neighborhoods that abut the Route 50 commercial uses. This project will not substantially alter existing air quality, groundwater quality, surface water, solid waste production, traffic levels, or noise levels. There are no known important historical, agricultural, archaeological, or aesthetic resources that will be impacted by this project. This proposal is consistent with the land use plan of the Town of Glenville Comprehensive Plan, which calls for general business and/or residential uses along the front of this property and suburban residential uses in the rear of the property. That was a recommendation written in supporting the seeker finding.
And again, I would like to emphasize that this is the change in the law. Any subsequent actions that come about as a result of this in terms of actual projects are again reviewed for their potential environmental impact on a case-by-case basis, usually by the planning board.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? So this is a yes means no.
No, yes means no adverse environmental impact as a result of this change in the law.
Okay. Please record the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Ramichardt?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzachowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Capson?
Yes, resolution passes. The next resolution, 18, approving the zoning map amendment to 41, 43, and 47 Saratoga Road. Do I have a motion?
I will move it.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved and second. Any discussion?
Yes. I'd like to read this. I think it'd be appropriate. I don't usually do that. I usually summarize, but I would like to read this for the benefit of the folks here tonight, and then have some further discussion if appropriate. But I'll read the resolve clause. Now therefore be resolved that the town board of the town of Glenville hereby finds and determines the area to be rezoned is shown on the land use plan and the town of Glenville comprehensive plan is located on the boundary line between general business, industrial, and suburban residential. The board notes that the comprehensive plan was adopted in 1990, nearly a quarter of a century ago. As such, the plan is in need of revision or a total rewrite. The preliminary task of updating the plan was initiated last month. Upgrading 3 parcels immediately adjacent to the general business district and opposite a general business district and research/development/technology district in terms of land use types and intensity reasonably reflects the nature of development pressure that exists in this area. Next item. The proposed zoning map amendment is reasonably compatible with neighboring land uses, particularly the commercial/automotive uses immediately south, Pedrick's Greenhouse, Mayfair Paint and Glass, Capital Land GMC Subaru, TJ's Flightline Pub, Monroe Mufflers, Wendy's, and others. Next item, this rezoning represents an extension of the adjacent general business zoning district to the south and east and is consistent with the research/development/technology zoning district to the east on Schenectady County Airport property. A professional residential zoning district will continue in existence to the north between the newly expanded general business district and the entrance to the return. Given these set of circumstances, the zoning map amendment should not have a deleterious effect on nearby land values. As discussed above, the potential impact of this rezoning on nearby land values will be minimal given existing land uses nearby. The rezoning should not significantly impact the character of the neighborhood. The rezoning will make these 3 properties available for commercial use, but any new retail will be subject to site plan review and approval and/or conditional use permit processes. Furthermore, any new development will be required to meet all required setbacks and landscaping buffering requirements of the Town of Glenville zoning ordinance. Last item, this rezoning is reasonably compatible with the purpose section of the Town of Glenville zoning ordinance, Article 1, which articulates in part that the ordinance has been crafted to encourage certain types of development areas where the land is well suited for such development and/or where such development has already occurred and/or where infrastructure is available to support both the type and intensity of the proposed uses. Given the evolution of commercial development in the surrounding area, particularly immediately south and east, and considering that public sewer has been installed in the area to be rezoned since the time of the adoption of the comprehensive plan, the board believes that the extension of the general business district for these 3 properties is warranted. And it goes on with a resolved cause calling out the tax map parcel numbers which are the subject of this rezoning and authorizing that rezoning.
Any further comments or questions?
I would just like to say we heard everybody here tonight. I think they're all very important issues, but I think they are more or best dealt with at the time of site plan review by the planning board, dealing with issues of lighting, buffer, noise was predominantly what we heard, traffic to some degree, although I think it is an excellent point about the traffic that would be allowed if this were to develop under the zoning as it existed or exists now. I think that's an excellent point. But I would also like to suggest, Linda, if we could, to have the minutes of our public hearing and our discussion directly forwarded onto the Planning and Zoning Commission. I think that'd be appropriate. So in the event that people can't make it, their comments are seen by the planning board. But I do think those issues are best dealt with at site plan review. And I would strongly suggest that the nature of the buffer, I think, words in planning and zoning have meaning. Buffer is an important word. It's not just a dimensional requirement, but what happens in that dimension is very important. What is the nature of that screening, the berming to occur? I would encourage the applicant to take those issues very seriously. I'd like to see a quality buffer, quality screening. If it requires coniferous trees, I'd like to see that. In response to the comments we heard, address the lighting. This is the 21st century. I cannot believe we're having lighting issues. I know lighting technology. We can downcast these lights and keep the light wash on the property line. But all that said, those are site plan issues. I think this, in the wider interest of the community, is a positive thing, this rezoning request.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Any other comments or questions?
I'd just like to echo Councilman Martin, thanking everyone who attended. We always really want to hear from the residents when we have projects and proposals before the board come out. Your opinions do matter. I agree with Councilman Martin that forwarding the minutes of the meeting and the public hearing to the planning board is important, along with our gesture of support for the residents and their concerns. The planning and zoning board does actually take into consideration the residents' concern and they generally do a fairly good job of addressing the very things that you're all talking about. But you will all probably, I would assume most of them would be noticed because they're within the 500 feet. If not, please let us know. We will try to keep you abreast of when the planning and zoning meetings are, so that you can come to the public comment portion of it and keep track of the proceedings to make sure your voice is also heard there as well.
Councilwoman, if I could just add, if you go on our website and sign up for news and announcements, you will get the news, and you'll get all the agendas. So you'll know when the planning board has their agenda and when it's going to be and when our agenda is. I really recommend signing up for that because you'll be able to track everything right from that.
But there will be a formal public hearing sponsored by the Planning and Zoning Commission prior to them making any formal action on this proposal.
Anything else? I think it was said enough tonight about, obviously what was brought up here tonight was very important, and I agree with all of it. It is as it was explained, a site plan review issue. Really what's before this board tonight is the question of, does the change in zoning fit with the character of the area, the community, the neighborhood? And that's really the only question we have before us. It's the only thing we can really rule on. We can't predetermine what the lighting is going to be. We can't predetermine what the noise is going to be or the traffic. That's for the planning board. And when you look at this and you look at the map and you look at the commercial corridor being a major state highway, and you see growth around the town, there's these natural areas where residential and commercial start to come up against each other. But when you look at the area, as we brought out in the resolution, what else is around it, and you look at the fact, it's my understanding, if this is a requirement, that if this doesn't happen, not only do we lose a brand, I believe we lose the Subaru brand, which means we lose jobs, which means we lose tax revenue and sales tax. Not only do we have the 30 new jobs, which cannot be ignored if we move forward, we're going to lose jobs if we don't go forward. And I think that weighs heavily, at least on my decision. The site plan stuff is absolutely, I'm supportive of making sure that there's buffers, and as all the council members have already stated, we have good communication with the planning board. We'll talk to them about that. You'll be a part of that process as a community. But tonight, I look at this and I say that I believe it's in keeping with the character of the community, and I think it's an important development for the greater good of the town. And so I do support the zoning change. So with that, any other questions or comments? Seeing none, please record the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Ramichardt?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzbowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. Next resolution, resolution 19, issuing a negative declaration for the amendments to chapter 270. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion?
Again, as we just experienced in the prior action, this again is the prelude, so to speak, in the environmental determination of no adverse impact resulting from this change in the law. And again, I'll read the reasons for supporting the determination as was done previously. These revisions alter the location where multifamily housing is to be developed, but they do not directly result in any development or physical alterations to the land. Secondly, the action will not impact air quality, groundwater quality, surface water quality, traffic levels, noise levels, solid waste production, etc. Thirdly, this action will not result in the removal of vegetation, fauna, nor will they impact significant wildlife habitat areas. And lastly, this action will not create a conflict with the town's comprehensive plan or zoning ordinance or any other land use document, i.e. Town Center Master Plan and the Freeman's Bridge Road Master Plan. Rather, this action modifies and clarifies some of the development standards for multifamily housing.
Any questions or comments? Again, this is a negative declaration to the seeker. Seeing none, please record the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Ramichardt?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzbowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. Next resolution, resolution 20, adopting local law 2 regarding multifamily dwellings as allowable site or allowable in general business zone. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor, this is the action that will actually put into place the restriction on the multifamily land use within the zoning district or the zoning code. And specifically, general businesses zone property is better suited for commercial purposes rather than residential uses. And the multifamily housing can still locate within the multifamily zoning districts or planned development districts where water and sanitary sewer services are readily available. Proposed amendments do not conflict with the Town of Glenville Comprehensive Plan, Town Center Plan, Freeman's Bridge Road Master Plan, and any other adopted land use plan or policies. Given the relatively minor nature of the zoning amendment, the adoption of this amendment will not negatively impact land values, nor will they result in incompatible neighboring land uses. And lastly, the proposed amendments will not adversely impact any particular neighborhood's character. Now, I will say, in deference to the comments that were made earlier this evening, we are actively in pursuit of updating our comprehensive plan. And I think your circumstance is something that's directly captured by that. You'll be seeing notices of public meetings coming this fall. We're purposely scheduling them in the fall after everybody's summer vacation schedules and before the holidays, so we can get the most opportunity for people to participate. I encourage you to come to those planned meetings and talk about these types of issues. I hear what you say, and I think there's ways we can accommodate, what you're after for the highest and best use of your property. And I agree with what you said earlier about the idea of doing it in a comprehensive plan context, and we're on the threshold of doing that. There are some overriding concerns. I do agree with what's being done here, but there is some opportunity to address this in a more quality fashion with the comprehensive planning process that we're about to start, and I hope you participate in that. And I think we can address your concerns in that fashion.
Thank you, Councilman. Any questions or comments on this?
I think Jim said it again well. We're limited to certain things that we can do based on what is the best, what's going to happen to, based on the best interests of the town. And be involved, keep being involved, because there's certain things based on the comprehensive plan, based on moving forward. We're trying to do what is going to be advantageous to the town, but at the same time, not hindering the business or residents. So just stay involved. Stay involved.
Am I to believe that it's all right for me to address the board?
Generally not.
My simple question was, am I to believe that if a parcel of property lies within the area where you grant an approval for multiple family use, they can still be built in the town of Glenville? Or is it a situation where you would prefer to have no more multiple?
No, this doesn't eradicate that, but let me address that and we'll continue the discussion on this. I could address that directly, but any other questions or comments on this before we?
No, take it away, Mr. Supervisor.
All right, so this really, let's talk just quickly about the genesis of this. And I know that anyone's followed anything in the town for the past 5 years or so know that there's been a concern generally among the board, some of the committees, our planners, that we might be getting too heavy in one particular housing stock over another. One of the questions is, what's hot now as opposed to what's hot tomorrow? Or there are two different answers to that. And there's people that make money off of what's hot today. They're developers and they're banks. The role of the town is not to look at what's hot today. The role of the town is to look at what happens as we saw the housing bust a few years ago now, being led by overbuilding condos in certain areas of the country. And nobody saw that coming, apparently. No planning board stopped and said, are we doing too much here? And everyone said, no, it's hot, people are financing it, people are buying it. Well, one day they didn't buy it, and everything fell apart. So I think we look at the town of Glenville. We've talked to many, many, many people, many developers, realtors. There's a consensus growing that we may be overbuilt already. In fact, I have 3 pretty good, one's a developer of both multifamily and single-family housing, who told me, you're probably in danger of being overbuilt right now. I had a former building inspector come in today to my office and spend some time and said one of the biggest threats to the town right now is you have too many multifamily units going up. I've had a realtor tell me that. So there's concern. Now, what's the real answer? We don't know. We don't know what tomorrow brings. All I'm saying is, when you go from this amount of multifamily to this amount of multifamily in a very short period of time, it's time to look at it, and it's time to take a moment and make sure we're not being overbuilt. The genesis of this resolution was that the board looked at zoning and said, Freeman's Bridge Road is not properly zoned. It's part of the comprehensive plan, but we cannot wait for the comprehensive plan because Freeman's Bridge Road right now, if you can believe it or not, most of it is industrial. Why the gateway to our community is zoned industrial is beyond my understanding, because some of the things you can put up in there besides manufacturing firms is strip clubs and adult bookstores. Can be in the gateway to our community. The door is locked. So we looked at that and we said, we want to, we certainly don't want to lock the press out.
Yeah.
We don't want to be accused of that. So we looked at that and we said, we want to make sure if we expand general business in the town, that we're not expanding with it even more potential for multifamily, because we don't want industrial use in Freeman's Bridge corridor anymore, certainly for these adult businesses and everything else. Does not mean we're eradicating or ending multifamily. There are still zones for multifamily. There are still opportunities. Actually, something you said I agree with 100%. If done correctly, these can be good projects. Well, what we're proposing to do is to bring them in case by case, individual, look at them, and make sure that they are good projects, that they're not done incorrectly. One thing I will say is I do see a slowdown in demand. I think there's only one apartment complex right now that has a waiting list. I don't believe anyone else has a waiting list at this point. I have, my in-laws are looking for a place, and we've been in the market, and they all seem to be available. So I think this really just says, okay, instead of by right allowing it in general business that has most of our zoning map now, let's take a minute and let's do it through the PDD process, plan development districts, and through the multifamily zone, and look at it that way. So you can still bring a project to the town board, and the town board can still look at it and make sure it's consistent with the community, but it isn't eradicating forevermore multifamily.
And this is, again, is an interim step to the comprehensive plan. A new plan being drawn up takes significant time. We need to have opportunity for appropriate public comment, and then a revision to the zoning ordinance to follow. This is basically an interim step to that end. And the final thing I would say is, you hear a lot of words about community development, whether it's sustainability or being green or any of that stuff. It's all about balance. And this discussion, as well as the prior one, it's about keeping your community in proper balance.
And just quickly, and I'm not rebutting what was said here tonight, that's not what this is about, but there is new data, there's new thinking on the impact multifamily has to a community. I talked to the school districts. It's a fallacy that these buildings do not impact the school districts. They absolutely do. There's a lot of families moving in with school-age children. In fact, from my office, I see the school bus going in and out of this little development all the time full of kids. They impact the schools. We do tend to have more police calls there because it tends to be more temporary living situation or more transient. There are significant impacts. The property taxing structure is not the same. They don't pay the same property tax level as single family pay, so they're paying less into the pot, but they're having now increasingly more of an impact on the community. So those are things that we have to look at. We have to start looking at the new thinking. Yeah, it used to be that they didn't have an impact on the school. A lot of these places have kids in them. Glenville won't, but a lot of them do.
But that's also a positive impact in some respects, because it brings mouths to feed. It brings associated business to other businesses within the town of Glenville structure.
It is.
People have to eat, they have to buy clothing, they have to shop.
Right.
For other.
Oh, no one's saying we don't want people. No one's saying that. We're saying when we look at the taxing structure, the school district doesn't get the tax dollars because the theory has always been they don't impact the school district.
Well, they would get more tax dollars than if it were a piece of vacant property.
Or it could be a different use.
It could be a different use.
So we're getting into a theoretical.
Yeah.
We're not here to debate that right now.
I understand.
I just wanted to convey, this is done with a lot of thought. It's a thoughtful consideration, and there's more work to be done on this, but for the interim, this is the best thing we can do.
Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, please record the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Ramichardt?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzachowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. Next, resolution 21, issuing a negative declaration on seeker regarding the amendment from two-step to one-step. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor, again, this is a consideration of environmental impact, potential adverse environmental impact, and the reasons supporting a negative declaration are as follows. These revisions will not trigger any new development or physical alterations to the town of Glenville. Rather, these amendments seek to simplify the site plan review process. In particular, the amendments are meant to combine the preliminary and final site plan review into a one-step process in certain instances and for a select group of land uses. This action will not impact air quality, groundwater quality, surface water quality, traffic levels, noise levels, solid waste collection, etc. This action will not result in the removal of vegetation or fauna, nor will it impact significant wildlife habitats. This action will not create a conflict with the town's comprehensive plan or zoning ordinance or any other land use policy document.
Any other questions or comments? Again, for negative declaration, please record the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Ramichardt?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzachowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. Next, resolution 22, adopting local law number 3 regarding establishing a one-step instead of two-step process. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor, a nice summary of this is encapsulated in the resolution. I'll read just the 4 brief bullet points. Streamlining the review and approval process is healthy for the business climate within the town of Glenville, and that a one-step site plan review process will expedite business approval, save time and money, thereby improving the economy and creating jobs within Glenville. The proposed amendments do not conflict with the Town of Glenville Comprehensive Plan, Town Center Plan, Freeman's Bridge Road Master Plan, or any other adopted land use plan or policies. Given the relatively minor nature of the zoning amendment, the adoption of this amendment will not negatively impact land values, nor will they result in incompatible neighboring land uses. The proposed amendments will not adversely impact any particular neighborhood's character.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? I think it's an important first step into reducing the wait time for some businesses, as much as up to 4 to 6 weeks, by combining it where there's not a major impact on communities. So I agree. Seeing none, please record the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Ramichardt?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzachowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. Next, resolution 23, revising a change to the town board meeting schedule. Do I have a motion?
So
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved in second. Just a point of discussion, we are changing partly to accommodate what we're going to talk about in a few minutes. Our town board meeting, which was set in resolution at the organizational meeting, we're going to move our August 6th work session, which will also be a special town board meeting, and we'll be calling for a public hearing at that one. And then we'll have our August 13th regular town board meeting, both to commence at 7 o'clock. So it's just changing our schedule slightly to accommodate some things we want to talk about shortly. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, please record the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Ramichardt?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzachowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. Next resolution is a resolution scheduling a public hearing for August 13th to consider some zoning text amendments regarding research development technology. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor, this is a motion setting a public hearing regarding a proposed change in the zoning code that would allow for electric fences in the research, development, and technology zone properties within the Glenville Business and Technology Park. And that is set for August 13th at 7 o'clock.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, please record the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Ramichardt?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzachowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. Next, resolution 25, which doesn't match resolution 25 on our desk.
Looking at this, I think I messed it up.
It's
It
okay.
should be 26.
Yeah, so 25, yes.
Yeah, they've been out of sync here for a while.
All right, so 26, 25 is actually 26. All right, so we're going to move on to resolution 25.
I think we did 25 2 weeks
It's
ago.
okay. That
Yeah.
She said.
Yeah.
Let's not worry about the number. The next resolution is revising the schedule of the town board meeting to reflect that no regular town board meeting will be held on August 20th, but a regular town board meeting will be held on August 13th, and a work session
We did that.
August 6th.
We did that.
We already did that.
That's the
That was
one we just did.
I was supposed to.
Oh, that was
Take
what it
25
was.
right out of there.
Oh.
Because I moved it.
See that, Linda?
Yep, I knew there was gonna be a.
Tricked me out.
So we are at the monthly department.
All right, so
Okay.
resolution 26 is the resolution approving the monthly department reports. Do I have a motion?
So
Do
moved.
I have a second?
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion?
Approving the monthly department minutes for June 2014.
And everybody got them, right?
Yep.
Okay. That was a good thing. Please record the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Ramichardt?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzachowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. Next resolution, resolution 26. 27 is approving the town board minutes for June 4th. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion, changes, deletions? Seeing none, please record the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Ramichardt?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzachowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, we have our three quick add-ons, all similar. Add-on number one is a resolution to consider extending town water services to Sunnyside Road and what is known as Sunnyside Gardens due to the risk of environmental contamination of the groundwater. Mark Kessner Engineers has served as the engineer consultant to the town and has created the map and plan for the extension. And the town board authorizes through this resolution the town supervisor to enter into an agreement with Mark Kessner Engineering regarding the preparation of such work to not exceed $11,250 in expenses to be charged to the general fund. And at the establishment of such water district, the cost of that will be put onto the water district and reimbursed through DEC. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. And this relates to the very good news that the DEC will be paying for the water line in this community. Not only the water trunk line, but also all the hookups, so that there's no charge to our residents for hooking into the system in this neighborhood. They'll pay usage, obviously, going forward, but this allows us to pay the engineer for his work, and we're gonna get reimbursement through DEC as part of the project. No further questions or comments?
Well, I just wanted to say, Paul, give you some congratulations, and DEC as well. I think this is the first time we've had a chance to talk about this since it, broke in the news. We're here publicly, and it's a lot of hard work. I know that this is not easily done, and this is a huge development for the people in this area. We were here a few weeks ago and heard all the reports on the contamination there, and this is a huge development. And I think it's a lot of good work by you and DEC on this, so.
Thank you. Thank you, Jim. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, please record the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Ramichardt?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzachowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. Next resolution, add-on resolution 2, which is determining the extension of Water District 11 to the town of Glenville. That relates to what we had just talked about. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion?
Mr. Supervisor, this resolution is in connection with the proposed extension to Water District 11, which will include 122 parcels in the vicinity of Sunnyside Road listed in the map or on file with the town clerk. This resolution would do several things. It would determine that that this action is subject to the secret process. It would also determine that the action does not involve a federal agency, and that while DEC is an interested agency, is not directly involved in the environmental review process for the establishment of a district extension or as any other agency. It classifies this action as a Type 2 action, and it determines that the town of Glenville will be the lead agency with respect to review of the water district extension formation for the town of Glenville. It also establishes a public hearing with respect to the establishment of the extension to water district number 11. And it's going to be held here, August 6, 2014, at 7 p.m. here in Town Hall.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, please record the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Ramichardt?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzachowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. Next add-on, resolution number 3, resolution establishing extension of Water District 11 to include real property described by section, block, and lot number. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
It's moved in second. Any discussion?
Mr. Supervisor, this resolution is rather an important one because this is a direction that we had discussed going in with regard to this issue with the plume and the contamination that was happening. We could obviously go in two directions. We could either have 51% of the assessed property value owners petition for us to do a water district extension and do a study on the cost and all that, or we could act on our own to establish that. We were reluctant to do the second option because we felt like it would be forcing our will on people who may not want that. So in light of the new developments with DC paying for the entire project, including the hookup of the residents to the water services, this obviously we don't want to wait any longer. There's people whose homes are currently on water services that the DC has installed, and they're getting a lot of water, and we don't really want to wait any longer. So this does several things. This is as a 12-inch main from the intersection of Grimsby Road, Trent.
No,
Messed up?
this is just a come for public hearing.
Oh, this is,
The other one is just
anyway,
So this is the one come for the public hearing.
this one had a public hearing too.
I don't know why I put it in both of them.
I don't know, this one had a public hearing too. Okay, so this is to schedule a public hearing.
For the extension.
For the extension, again, for Water District Number 11, August 6, 2014, 7 p.m. Here at Town Hall.
I don't know why it's in both.
I don't know.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, please record the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Ramichardi?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzachowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. We're at the end of the meeting for new business. I'll start with my left. Councilman Ramatar.
Nothing good.
Councilman Wozzachowski.
Nothing new.
Councilman Martin.
Nothing new at this time.
After this meeting, I have nothing new, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We're adjourned.